Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at installing the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2016 Kia Soul. Now this is what your hitch is going to look like when it's installed, and it's a really great option for the Soul because it's a hidden cross tube, meaning the only thing that you're going to see is the receiver tube opening. And the great part about this one is even though it falls into a class 1 hitch, which predominantly is going to be 1.25 inches, this one's a 2-inch hitch, and that really opens it up to the accessories that you can put in place, whether it be a cargo carrier, a bike rack, or even a ball mount for a small trailer. Now all of those accessories are going to stay in place with a 5/8 pin and clip. This is not included with the hitch, but it is required to get your accessories in place. And a lot of times when you pick up accessories, they'll have those pin and clips included. But if you plan on leaving your accessory on the back of your Soul, you might want to take a look at a locking pin and clip. It's a good deterrent for anyone just walking by. They can't just take that pin out and then take the accessory with them. If you do plan on pulling a small trailer, you have safety chain loops. They're pretty tidy against the receiver tube opening, which gives it a really clean look. Makes it super easy for a standard S-hook to go on. Even a large clevis style is going to go on with no problems. And speaking of towing and using, any accessory in here, you're going to want to adhere to the weight capacities. And this one has a gross trailer weight rating of 2,000 pounds. It's going to be the weight that your vehicle's towing with that trailer loaded up. Now it's important to definitely get the measurements and weight of that trailer, but check the vehicle's owner's manual and see what it's capable of towing, and then compare that with the hitch before just hitting the road and going down. You don't want to overload the vehicle. Just because the hitch can handle doesn't mean that the transmission or suspension can. Now tongue weight is going to be really important for cargo carriers and bike racks. That's the downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube opening, and this one comes in at 300 pounds, which is going to be good enough to be able to put a bike rack and load it up, maybe even a 4-bike, depending on the weight of your bikes and the bike rack that you're using. But having that little bit of extra on a tongue weight, normally a class 1 is going to be 200 pounds, is really going to be key for any of those accessories you may be using. Now when choosing accessories like cargo carriers or bike racks, some of them stow in a vertical position, which is really nice. It allows you to really park in garages or just kind of make the footprint of the vehicle smaller. But sometimes they don't work well with vehicles because of the protruding fascia. So when choosing accessories, you're going to want to take a look at something that maybe sticks out a little bit further, because from the center of our hitch pin hole to the furthest point of our fascia, it really does come out pretty far. So I worry that it is going to have issues. So getting something with a slightly longer shank might be ideal. And keep in mind with those folded up, you're probably not going to be able to open up your hatch without folding those down. If you're looking at how some of those components may play ball with your vehicle directly, you can take a look at some of our test fit videos where we're going to be putting accessories in and show you kind of how that works with the Soul. Now as far as ground clearance goes, it comes in at 10 inches, so fairly low ground clearance here. It's really going to be important if you are planning on pulling a trailer to get a nice level height of your trailer. So the best way to do that by determining the riser drop necessary for the ball mount is to measure from the ground to the top of your coupler and then compare that with the 10-inch height, and then from there you can determine the riser drop necessary. More than likely you're going to be in a rise configuration. Again, you might want to look at something with a slightly longer shank to put that ball out a little bit further. Now when it comes to getting the hitch installed, this one's actually pretty easy. There's going to be weld nuts on the side of the frame, and you're going to take off a few plastic push pins to allow space for the hitch to go up, and that does involve also dropping the muffler down, but it's just one isolator, so pretty easy to do. And then you just raise it up, put the bolts in, tighten and torque them, and then you'll be good to go. Now something that you may run into is, depending on the climate that you live in or the weather that you deal with, some of those holes can get a little bit of corrosion in them. So it might be worthwhile to put some penetrating oil in there to help that hardware go through, just as rust and corrosion can build up. That can make it really tricky to get those bolts tightened down. But overall, pretty easy installation. If you don't have the tools, the place, the time, or even the want to do this yourself, I totally get it, but adding a hitch to any vehicle is well worth doing, just because you can really add some real estate to the vehicle. So if you still want to get the hitch installed but don't want to have to install it, you can reach out to our dealer locator to find someone close to you to get your hitch installed. And once you get it installed, whether you do it yourself or go to that dealer, take some pictures of it. Let us know how you're using your Soul with your hitch, and we love to see how neighbors are using their vehicles out on their adventures. With that being said, let's take a look at the installation. We'll get your hitch installed. To get our hitch installed, it's actually going to be a pretty easy one to do. You may want to get your vehicle raised up in the rear, chalk the front tires just to give yourself a little bit of extra space. But really, we're just going to be moving some stuff out of the way. Our hitch is going to raise up and then we bolt it into place. So first I'll start with a trim panel tool, and you may or may not have mud flaps on your sole. If that's the case, you're going to have an additional step. We don't have that today. So what we're going to do to gain access to the holes on the side is going to be popping out this plastic push pin where our wheel well liner is located. And a trim panel tool works really well, but a flathead screwdriver also is a great option. So we'll pry this out, and you might want to keep your hardware in a nice organized spot for the time being. That way you'll have everything to go back. Now once you get that plastic push pin removed, we're just going to continue on. So we have one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. So taking that down is going to allow us to kind of move this out of the way and again get the hitch up in place. Now if you want, there's a deflector on the exhaust. You can move this out of the way for now to give you a little bit more space. And once you have those popped out, that you can see the wheel well liner kind of starts to open up a little bit, making it easier, but we do want to take off some of the screws that are holding it in place. There's 2 of them on each side. It's just going to be a Phillips, and getting that's really going to be able to draw out that wheel well liner, making it super easy to gain access to our hardware. So it is tight here. I just have a 1/4 inch drive with a small Phillips head on here, and that's going to make it easy. It can get a little bit tight against the tire. We may not have to tackle this one, but while I'm here, just give us that extra space. I am going to remove this one. And then once we get this out, we'll just repeat on the other side. Now something else that might get in the way is going to be our exhaust and muffler. So the hitch is going to kind of slide up here and go on the outside of the frame rail. And in order to get a little bit more space, we are going to pop off our isolator. The best way to do that is a long flathead or a pry bar, just like I'm using here. And you can use the muffler as leverage. And sometimes these can get pretty tight and caked on. So if that's the case, you can use a little soapy water or silicone spray, but ours popped off fairly easily. And with that out of the way, we should be able to get our hitch ready to go. So you might want to grab an extra set of hands and also have your hardware ready to go. Our goal as raising up the hitch is to have our hardware ready, and once we raise it up, we should be able to find the hole on the side of the frame, and we're going to get our hardware started on both sides. Just a few threads that'll support the hitch, making it a lot easier to get in place. Hardware combination is going to be a split washer and 2 flat washers. So again, just have that ready. I have Matt helping me here today, so we're just going to kind of work this in. Again, you may have to peel back the little bit of the fascia and the fender liners to get this in place. Getting it over the exhaust, it can be a little bit tricky here. There we go. Okay, cool. So moving this stuff out of the way is going to be kind of, it's a little cumbersome here, but you can get the hole started on either side. So just be careful, but you can use your finger to kind of feel for that spot. Take your hardware and just get a few threads started by hand. 1 bolt started on each side. We'll just take the other ones and put them in the other holes and get those hand tightened in place. And don't be afraid to push your wheel well liner out of the way, as it is fairly tight here. And if those holes are built up with rust and corrosion and you're finding it really hard to get those through, you can spray a little bit of penetrating oil, and if you have a tube brush, you can go through and clean those out. A lot of times if you pass your hardware through a few times, it'll clear it out. Just if it's really fighting you and you can't snug them down, be careful. You don't want to damage the threads and make it to where it's not going to be a good weld nut location anymore. So just make sure that it's going in fairly easily. Now to get these snug down, 17mm socket's going to do it. You can use a ratcheting wrench here just because it's kind of narrow. You don't need to get crazy here because we are going to come back with a torque wrench immediately after and torque it down. So the main thing is we're just getting this snug. Now there is some slots in all of the holes to allow for adjustability, so get it as level as you want, or even at a slight incline. It's definitely not a bad thing to give you a little bit more clearance, but get it exactly how you want it. Then you grab your torque wrench. Torque settings are found in the instruction manual, and we'll go through and torque these all down. Now, if you need a torque wrench, we have them here at eTrailer, but generally you can go to an auto parts store and rent one for free. And this is going to be important, especially using weld nuts. You can over tighten and cause damage to those long term, but you also want to be able to safely tow things down the road and have weight on your hitch. So make sure you get these torqued down properly, and we'll go through and get all 4 of them torqued down. Now, once you have your hardware torqued down, you've officially installed the hitch on your Kia Soul. All you really have to do is get your plastic push pins put back in place, as well as the screws that were on the wheel well liner, load up your accessories, put in a pin and clip, and hit the road. And that was a look and installation of the EcoHitch Trailer Hitch Receiver on a 2016 Kia Soul.